Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is exactly what it's titled. A dragon takes the form of a maid to work for a woman called, yep, you guessed it, Miss Kobayashi. Now, we've all had nights where one too many drinks gets consumed, and before you know it, you're attracted to a beast whale who falls back to your home for some coffee. In the case of Miss Kobayashi, however, an evening of overindulgence resulted in our programmer cohabitating with a dragon rather than a marine mammal. After a strenuous day at the office, Kobayashi unwinds with a few brews, leaving her completely plastered. Due to her drunken gaze, she misses her stop and ends up taking the train all the way to the nearby mountains. There, she finds an injured dragon named Tooru, who she saves from death by extracting the holy blade protruding from her scaly torso. Cemented by her savior, Tooru decides to permanently migrate over to the human realm and become Kobayashi's servant. How's it going, guys? My name is JcGreen and welcome to another anime review, this time of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Let's get started. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is a 13-episode anime based on the manga created by Kokyo Shinja? Yeah. Whose previous work includes the amusingly titled I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying. This charming slice-of-life comedy follows the reserved Miss Kobayashi as she settles into the routine of living with a reptilian maid. As one might expect, Tooru's housekeeping is unconventional to say the least. She cleans Kobayashi's unmentionables by shoving down her gullet, dusts the apartment by using sorcery rather than a broom, and when mealtime rolls around, she serves dishes of roasted dragon tail. I'm guessing it tastes like chicken. Kobayashi's once quiet life turns upside down by Tooru's antics, and things only get livelier when other magical lizards or dragons relocate from their fantasy world to Japan as well. As a slice-of-life comedy, the series mainly focuses on the daily lives of its characters and their relationships, specifically the final dynamic between Kobayashi, Tooru, and Kana. That's not to say that there's not an ongoing storyline though. The plot is all about the dragon world, how it works, and why all these dragons suddenly appearing in the human world. However, the plot often takes a backseat and is used only to play with the overall themes of acceptance between the species. This is seen on several occasions, like when Tooru talks to Fafnir about the good in humanity, or on a bigger scale when Tooru's father appears to take her back to the world where she belongs. Usually when you hear about an anime with a dragon being in service to a human, you don't expect it to be a cute slice of life with comedy. This might not be the first time a story like this was shown, but it is entertaining in Dragon Maid. The story even has some depth, taking small looks into Tooru's past and how she saw humans before meeting Kobayashi, which makes the anime more interesting. We're now introduced to a different view of the anime, now knowing how dragons and humans see each other in Tooru's world and how they don't exist in Kobayashi's world. Makes the interaction between the characters seem enlightening as they learn more about each other. There is a bit of fan service, but it's mostly based around the character Luca, and with one look at her, you could tell that's her role. I found it done more as a comedy thing than shoving boobs in your face. Not that the show has a ton of fan service, but what little it has tends to be a lot more provocative than you normally see. Like how Luca's lack of understanding humans tends to make her cater to Shotaro, her little ward. Comes across as vaguely sexually harassing, while there is a scene where Kana plays Twister with her newest friend Rico that comes across as mildly iffy.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no, to the no, no. Hell to the no, no, to the no, 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 no. Hell to the no, no, to the no.
The show thankfully never gets truly off-putting with its comedy, so I was able to just let it slide. But Maid Dragon is mainly a comedy, and it does very well here. Granted, the aforementioned limitations of Luca to fan service / breast jokes isn't particularly creative by itself, but the core of the show is basically a bunch of dragons trying to fit into human society. And all the sardonic comments coming from both sides of the interdimensional borders is what gives it its delicious spicy taste. The fact that Kyoto Annie is able to very adept at physical comedy certainly does this show a lot of good. trust me. Yet, despite its general lighthearted tone, Dragon Maid can get rather heavy at times. The main theme of the show obviously has to do with family, with Kobayashi, Tooru, and Kana making for an enduring family unit. It's especially apparent seeing as Toru's placed herself in a self-imposed exile, while Kana followed Tooru to Earth and now can't get back on her own, though she doesn't have parents that would welcome her anyways, even if she could. The two of them do the same thing Favnir and Luca eventually do, seek bonds with other people, regardless of which kind. I'll throw this disclaimer out there. If your anime has to have an endgame or some goal, stay away from Dragon Maid. This is a show that doesn't really care so much about the end, but more of the journey. The story is very relaxed for the most part. It just gives off a very chill feel. I found that the comedy was actually funny and will make you laugh unless if, well, you're dead inside. Dragon Maid just takes itself an episode at a time, and it is borderline episodic. Each episode will bring you something new and usually involves some sort of hijinks that the characters find themselves in. Regardless, the best part of Miss Kobayashi's Maid Dragon is its characters. All the characters have their own quirky, unique personalities, and seeing them interact never gets old. Kana is already considered to be one of the cutest little kids I've ever seen in anime. Kobayashi is reliable as they come, and seeing Favnir falling for the otaku culture after being skeptical of humanity is plain hilarious. The only characters that don't quite fit are Luca, as she just fan services to the dismay of poor Shota, and Elma, who seems completely disconnected from the rest of the cast. The friendship between Kana and Riko is cute, but the slightest sexualization of their relationship in certain scenes is disturbing and unnecessary. Despite the fantastical premise, it's very much a slice of life show, showing the growing understanding and friendship between Kobayashi and Tooru and the issues that come with interspecies living as Tooru learns to adjust to the human world. By having Tooru move in with a grown woman instead of a hormonal boy makes the relationship between the two characters feel very real and genuine. Tooru states from the beginning of the series that she's in love with Kobayashi, and there's never really any question about whether or not Tooru understands the distinction between platonic and romantic love in the human world. The bottom line is that, well, she's in love. As for Kobayashi herself, she feels like a fresh female character into the crowded anime world. She's a sensible and reserved, while still having a great emotional capacity for empathy. Not to mention that she's a working woman in a male-dominated industry who kicks ass at her job. Kobayashi also isn't a typically feminine dresser. At no point is she drawn in an overly sexualized way, although the same cannot be said for some of the other dragon cameos. She's not cute or sexy or is there to act as eye candy. She's a very normal working adult woman. Naturally, Tooru isn't the only dragon who will show up on Kobayashi's household. She is quickly followed by Kana, a dragon child who is banished from her home for doing pranks, and ends up playing the child role in Kobayashi's household. I was worried that she'd end up being a pesto antagonistic foul to Kobayashi, but once all the misunderstandings are cleared up, she becomes easily the most adorable addition to the show. The reason she is so adorable is that Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid does such a good job at portraying her as a child, yet not putting aside the fact that she's also a dragon. For myself, she is without a doubt the highlight of the show. Her character is constructed impeccably and with such great detailed attention, backed up with some great voice acting. I doubt there's anyone who cannot smile at every line she speaks. One of the most notable episodes being the sports festival, in which there were so many touching moments, Kana being the catalyst for all of them. In particular, it is her innocence I am drawn to, her ability to see the past of facets that people coat themselves with, and yet all whilst retaining that childlike fascination with everything the world has to offer. The third dragon who comes along is Quetzalcoatl, mostly known as Luca. Luca is easily the calmest of the dragons, the one most likely to offer good advice that doesn't involve killing or Armageddon. Though, on the other hand, her contribution to comedy usually revolves around her chest size and the nightmares it gives a boy she later takes care of, as well as her general taste in clothes, or as Kobayashi describes it as dressing like a prostitute, which for some reason is hilarious to me. Another thing that draws me in are the character dynamics. Kana sandwiched between Kobayashi and Tooru, while Luca, Favnir, and Elma stir on the sidelines, adding depth to the relationships and giving us context from the world in which the dragons come from and the way in which they operate. It's these interactions from the two opposite forces that gives the narrative warmth and undeniable feeling as the conflicts turn into friendship, as the dragons build their lives in Kobayashi's world world of humans. Kyoto Animation is also known for producing beautiful looking, heartwarming series with most moe characters. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is somewhat unique in this regard. We're presented with pastel backgrounds, yet ones that are diverse in their use of color. It's a complementary style that accentuates the chilled out demeanor of the show as a whole. Instead of striking cell shading, a watercolor effect is used to subtly blend the majority of the background, creating that laid back aesthetic that is always pleasing to lay eyes upon. The animation itself is flawless, smooth, and sparkly clean. It's proficiently become apparent when the dragons decide to get a little rough with each other, in which the action sequences are precisely choreographed, breaking up the regular pacing of an otherwise entirely slice-of-life anime, which seems to surpass the quality of many other shows that are solely focused on action and fast-paced visual changes. It is in this we are able to see the true craftsmanship backing up Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid and understand that it's not one aspect. Even those synonymous with such genres have been overlooked. Another beautiful element of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is the very apparent use of visual comedy. There are moments when humor jumps from the screen, punching out, grabbing the comedic parts of my brain, twisting and wrenching them from side to side. From one scene to the next, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid stylistically switches itself around, flipping from a serious moment which are conveyed through the simplicity of its facial animations and grounded actions, then being imbued with electricity as we plunge into montages of hilarious absurdity, displaying through eccentric animation and chibi-style character renditions. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid had a very fitting soundtrack. Great OPs and EDs are things that many anime fail to master. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid doesn't fall under this curse. It blows through expectations. Where I might usually skip the OP and ED, I sat through them, enjoying every moment of the catchy scores until the next episode plays and it all starts over again. The opening song was Azura no Rhapsody by Fauna, and it's a very bubbly pop song that immediately shows you the ambience of the show. I found it to be catchy as hell, and it truly did fit the show like a glove. This type of song isn't usually my type of thing, but when it fits, it fits. The ending song was called Ishuken Communication by Yuki Kiwahara, Mari Nagawa, Yuki Takada, and Inami Takahashi. They also happen to be the Japanese voice actresses for Tooru, Kana, Ilma, and Luca, respectively. This song had the same bubbly fun feel as the opening. Hearing the four characters sing was pretty cool since the animation showed them singing along. I also found this song pretty catchy even though I don't usually like that style of music. This soundtrack is one that I think most will find to fit the show and maybe even come to enjoy. The person who created the soundtrack is Azumi Ito. I did think she did a great job at making a soundtrack that fit the show so well and was able to really express the ambience of the show itself. I was a huge fan of the voice work, both sub and dub. In the English dubbed, it was a refreshing change of roster with the usual names you'd expect making their way for new talent. A huge sign that thanks to the simulcast and the current changes in the industry, doors are now open with more work for voice actors and actresses as companies start to take on a greater volume of titles from Japan. The voice acting was spot on with what you'd expect from the characters. Atsumi Tomura and Leah Clark were excellent as Kobayashi. They both show great range of emotion and their drunk voices for Kobayashi was hilarious. They really nailed it as Kobayashi and actually really surprised me. Mari Naganawa and Jade Saxton as Kana ended up being an excellent choice as well. Both had adorable voices that made their character all the better. I really loved both, but especially how Mari Naganawa was able to make a stoic voice cute. Now, I'd also like to point out that either sub or dub on voice acting will be great regardless, so I think no matter what version you choose, you're gonna hear great voice acting for sure. Usually when I watch anime, I limit myself to a couple episodes per sitting, but with this series, I couldn't resist marathoning the first 10 episodes. Early on, I was hooked, as each installment would introduce an interesting new character to the mix. Once the full cast was established, the series retained my undivided attention thanks to the consistently funny humor and heartwarming moments that revolved around the Kobayashi-Tooru-Kana family unit. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is one of these shows that only comes once in a blue moon. By no way is it impeccably original, and by no way does it tackle matters too seriously. Yet, it hints at them, making such social issues accessible to a wide audience, without creating constructs that are impossible to grasp. Because if the show is about anything, it's about learning to rely on people, learning to trust in their abilities and seeing past their weaknesses. It's about having friends and being able to acknowledge that fact. It's about realizing who you are and accepting that notion. Overall, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is a show that I'm glad I was recommended. So, thanks, Brendan. Links in the description if you guys want to check out his content. They're pretty sweet, so I'd go check out and subscribe. But like I said, it's a very light watch, and I sort of want another season, even though I'm pretty sure that won't happen. If you want something relaxing and short to watch, then I'd highly suggest giving Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid a shot. Anyways, this wraps up my review of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Hope you guys did enjoy this. If you guys did, please comment down below your thoughts and opinions of this show, and of course, hit that like button. It's always well appreciated, and of course, subscribe for more anime content. Regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy this again, and of course, my name is JcGreen. I will see you guys next time on my next anime related video. Peace out, guys.